They mocked his modified M1911 pistol. They laughed at the worn grips, the filed sights, the extra weight hidden inside the slide. They said a pistol was no weapon for a real fight. But on November 18, 1944, in the frozen forests near Hürtgen, Germany, one American infantryman would prove them catastrophically wrong. By nightfall, 35 German soldiers would lie dead or wounded along a narrow stretch of forest trail, and the only weapon left smoking in the cold air was a battered Colt M1911A1. This is the story of a moment when doctrine failed, plans collapsed, and survival depended on a single man's will to fight against impossible odds. What happened next would become legendary. By late 1944, the Hürtgen Forest had become one of the most brutal killing grounds of the Western Front. Dense evergreen forests, steep ravines, and mud that swallowed boots and vehicles alike turned every movement into a struggle. Visibility was often limited to less than 50 yards. American forces of V Corps, part of the 1st U.S. Army, had been ordered to push through the forest to secure the Ruhr River dams, which were critical to preventing German flooding during the Allied advance. But the terrain favored the defender. German units from the 275th Infantry Division and elements of the 89th Infantry Division had transformed the forest into a maze of ambushes, interlocking machine gun nests, and carefully plotted artillery kill zones. Among the Americans was Private First Class Daniel R. Callahan of the 28th Infantry Division, 112th Infantry Regiment, a 24-year-old rifleman from rural Pennsylvania. On paper, Callahan was unremarkable. He had no medals, no rank beyond PFC, and no leadership position within his squad. What set him apart was his sidearm. While most infantrymen carried the standard-issue M1911A1, Callahan's pistol had been quietly modified by an army armorer back in England. The front sight had been slightly sharpened, the trigger smoothed and lightened, the slide weight subtly altered for faster cycling, and the grip panels replaced with hand-carved walnut to improve control in cold weather. Other soldiers joked that it was a gunsmith's vanity project. Callahan never joked back. He had trained with that pistol for 3 years, and little did they know how much that would matter. At dawn on November 18th, Callahan's platoon advanced along a narrow forest trail designated Route K14. The temperature hovered just above freezing, and a thin mist clung to the trees. Every footstep sounded too loud in the oppressive silence. By mid-morning, German artillery began ranging fire. Tree bursts shattered branches overhead, sending razor-sharp splinters raining down on the men below. Soldiers dove into shallow foxholes, barely deep enough to protect them. Shortly after, the lead squad triggered a tripwire mine, killing 2 men instantly and plunging the platoon into confusion as radio traffic dissolved into overlapping calls and broken commands. By late morning, the platoon was down to 18 effective soldiers. Orders came to hold position, with reinforcements delayed. German forces were closing in. Recon patrols reported at least 40 enemy infantry, supported by MG-42 machine guns, maneuvering through parallel forest paths. Callahan's squad was assigned rear security. By early afternoon, ammunition was critically low. Rifles were down to single clips. BAR gunners were nearly empty, and the sense of being hunted grew heavier with every passing minute. Then, the German assault began. The first wave advanced cautiously, helmets low, rifles up, boots silent on wet pine needles. Soon, the Americans were engaged on 3 sides. The forest erupted as MG-42s tore through the trees, bullets snapping inches above helmets. Men screamed for medics who could not reach them. Callahan fired his rifle until it clicked empty. With no time to think, he reached for his pistol. By mid-afternoon, the platoon had effectively collapsed. Officers were dead or wounded. Radio contact was lost, and German infantry closed to within 30 yards. Callahan found himself isolated behind a fallen spruce tree, surrounded by wounded men who moaned in pain and cold. His rifle was useless, his last grenade already thrown. All he had left was his M1911A1. and 5 magazines. German soldiers advanced in small groups, probing for resistance. Callahan waited. The first German appeared through the fog, and Callahan fired once. The man dropped instantly. Another followed, then another. The pistol cracked again and again, each shot controlled and deliberate. German troops pulled back in confusion. They had expected silence, not resistance. Callahan began shifting positions between trees, firing from unexpected angles. Despite the cold, the modified slide cycled smoothly, and the trigger broke cleanly with every pull. Every shot counted. German shouts echoed through the forest as grenades exploded nearby. Shrapnel tore into Callahan's leg, but he stayed upright. At one point, a German squad rushed him directly. Callahan emptied an entire magazine in seconds. 7 men fell, and the rest fled. Against impossible odds, he kept fighting. Fear spread through the forest, gripping men on both sides, but only one side began to break.
As the afternoon wore on, the Germans became convinced they were facing a larger American force. They hesitated, regrouping and reassessing. Callahan did not give them time. Using the forest's natural cover, he advanced and flanked the German staging area, less than 200 yards away. From behind a ridge, he opened fire again. The sudden attack shattered German cohesion. Officers went down first, machine gun crews abandoned their weapons, and confusion turned to panic. In the chaos, Callahan seized an abandoned MP-40 and fired short bursts to amplify the illusion of numbers, then returned once more to his pistol. By early evening, the forest fell silent. 35 German soldiers lay dead or wounded along the trail and surrounding trees. Moments later, Callahan collapsed from blood loss and exhaustion. When American reinforcements finally arrived, they found a single man, unconscious among the trees, his pistol still clenched in his hand. Private First Class Daniel R. Callahan survived. He was evacuated with severe blood loss and multiple shrapnel wounds. After-action reports credited him with 35 confirmed enemy casualties, noting that his actions delayed the German counterattack long enough for American lines to stabilize. For his actions, Callahan was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. His modified M1911 A1 was sent to Ordnance for inspection and was found to have functioned flawlessly. Veterans of the 28th Infantry would later say they never laughed at a soldier's weapon again. The Hürtgen Forest would continue to claim lives for weeks to come, but on that frozen November day, one man proved that determination, skill, and courage could outweigh numbers, doctrine, and even fate itself. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War, moments where ordinary men were pushed beyond human limits and history was shaped in silence. Subscribe to Past Horizon as we continue to bring these forgotten chapters of history back to life.